All right, we've got our tea. It is mango this time. We've got our fun skeleton friend beside us. I think we're ready to do this.
Hi, everyone. You're tuning in to the Perfectly Powerfully You podcast, a space of epic positivity, radical self expression, and transformational growth. Join me in celebrating this beautiful thing we call life with even greater ease, flow, and authenticity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Perfectly Powerfully You podcast. I'm your host, Nikita, and I trust, hope, and expect that you all are having a spooktacular day. When I am recording this, we are well ahead of spooky season, but I am also in alignment with the day after spooky season. So I hope you all had a fantastic spooky holiday, that you tricked and or treated, and that there is plenty of beautiful things in your life thus far. For today's podcast, I am inspired by a show I have been watching recently. For those of you gals and ghouls who are watching or love anime, I recently got into Demon Slayer. For those of you who are on Netflix, love anime, haven't watched it, check it out. For those of you who are on Netflix, have watched it, let me know what you think about it. I am on currently the last season, but there will be another one coming out soon, which I am so stoked about. But I am going to be talking today about not only the law of receiving in alignment with this, but also in the aspect of giving in general, and how not only we become people of increase to allow even more increase to be reflected in our life, but the empowering way in which giving allows us to be more authentic versions of us, that allows us to channel the intelligence that is breathing us to an even more empowered way, but also how we can utilize these invisible laws, such as the law of receiving, in order to receive even more greatness in our life. So if that sounds awesome to you, please stick around for the remainder of this podcast and let's get on with the show. So, for those of you who have been around for Perfectly Powerfully You podcast for a while, the law of receiving is probably something not new to you. But I would love to touch on this a little bit more because I think that, as well as with all the other laws, I think it's such an important part to play in the life that we are given. Reminding ourselves that there is a power breathing us, that we can't even beat one beat of our own heart. We can't take a breath on our own. And the reason why you woke up today wasn't because of your alarm or a barking dog or the smell of coffee, but because there's a power inside of us that allowed us to be able to receive all of the stimulus and to keep us alive, to be awake today. Now, this intelligence, this oneness that we are all a part of, works in dynamic exchange of give and take. And so today, as we're talking about the law of receiving, it is on the opposite side of the law of giving. And so as we give more in our life, it makes sense then that there is an equal and opposite and reciprocal receiving part of it. In order for us to activate this law of receiving, receiving more love, receiving more money, receiving more time, receiving more freedom, support, we first must give. What giving does in our life is it creates a vacuum, a hole, if you will, in our life, like an empty space that must be filled. And you're not going to be getting anything that is out of alignment with what it is that you are giving. So if you would love more money in your life, then you give more money. If you would love more love in your life, you give love. If you would love more time or people who are supporting you, I think you know where I'm going with this, you give it. And so as I was watching Demon Slayer, there was a part where Tokito, I'm not going to give all of this away for those of you who are going to be watching it, no spoilies, I promise. But Tokito is a beautiful, strong, empowered Hashira, someone born, bred, and became someone who gives of themselves in order to protect others. Now, there is this dichotomy between Tokito and Tanjiro. Tanjiro in Demon Slayer is one of the main characters and the main character who has a destiny to which is unfolded. But something that I noticed is that Tanjiro is someone who is I'm using my words choicefully, but I also don't think this is a proper word, but relentlessly a giver, always willing to be there for others, always willing to just give of himself without expecting anything in return. And so this exchange between Tokito and Tanjiro is very, very distinct because they're almost like opposite sides of the same coin, both givers of themselves and protectors of life. Now, in this one exchange, Tokito he does not understand why Tanjiro just gives. He's like, is there nothing that you want in life? Like, why is there nothing you want to do right now? Why do you feel like you must give of yourself? And something that he said very authentically and plainly is that he said that when you give, you're often helping yourself. And I really loved this quote because one, it ties back into our oneness. How if we understand and relate even more with how there's absolutely no separation between you and I, between the candles that's burning behind me and the teacup that's in front of me, that this is all energy. And in this physical realm, we see a distinction. We make ourselves separate from what's going on around us, but really, we are all part of the same energy and oneness. And so, as we give of ourselves, we are giving to ourselves in an essence or sort. Of course, there are different expressions of oneness, but is this all same oneness that is this constant giving and exchanging of itself by means of itself? I'd love for you in your own day to think on that a little bit because it really makes sense then when Tanjiro said, when you give, you're only helping yourself. Not only because as above, so below comes to mind. As we give, so we shall receive. Our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. Like a boomerang, things come back. There are so many examples of this dynamic exchange that I talked about before, of this oneness that is both a giver and a taker. And so Tokito, in this particular episode and throughout the season, has this birthing of something new, has this recognition that there's so much more going on than maybe he first realized. There's another example that was given in the season where Tokito is often like off saving the city under attack. And at first, he literally runs right past this little boy who he thought was a subordinate, this little boy who said he has no value or worth because he doesn't contribute anything to society. He doesn't know how to swing a sword or anything like that. So his life, as he was describing it, was worthless. And so originally, his past self would have continued to run right by him, and he would have prioritized somebody who he thought was of a higher nature, someone worth saving because they offered more value to life, to citizens. But something occurred, and he had this epiphany where Tanjiro came up in his mind's eye and said, when you help others, you often help yourself. And as he was running through the forest again, going to save others who he thought was more worthy than this one little boy, he stopped. And he actually turned back around and he went and saved this little boy, not knowing that this little boy was going to change the direction of his life. Now, for those of you who are watching Demon Slayer or are going to watch Demon Slayer, okay, a little bit of spoilies now. I've given you the heads up, just just forewarning you. So, in dynamic tension, Tokito, he is at the brink of death. He's literally moments away from his life ending. And so he said, I guess this is it. Everything that I have done up until now has led to this. I am about to die. And then he has a vision. He says, well, he has a vision. And this vision of Tanjiro comes into his mind. It's not real. It's just a part of it. Well, I'll say quote unquote real, but his imagination is conjuring Tanjiro in front of him and saying, you don't know what life has in store for you. You have no idea what future is ahead. Yes, maybe you're on the brink of death, but you have no idea what's coming next. And so, foreshadowing, the little boy who he saved his life came up and he was fighting, trying to save Tokito from from the brink of death. And he was fighting and he was about to die himself because the same creature that was trying to kill Tokito was also trying to kill this little boy. This little boy gave Tokito the only thing that he could in that moment, which was a breath of life. Because at the level of fact, Tokito was in this water bubble and he couldn't breathe. And so he gave him life, he gave him air, the one thing that could save him. And in that moment, right before Tokito was going to die, he had no idea that the boy was going to come. But of course, there are unforeseen forces that were able to help him out when he thought he was all alone. Now, not only do we not know everything that's supposed to unfold in our life, we have no idea what the future has in store for us, but we are aware of the present moment. We are consciously aware of how we can choose to act now, how we can choose to think now. And everything that we are doing now has a cascading and domino effect of how our future will unfold. Now, in relation to the law of receiving, which is activated by our giving. Tokito before had no idea that he was going to be on the brink of death, and yet he gave of himself to save a life. And therefore, he was given life. Now, maybe in your life, something may not be as dramatic, or maybe it is. I have no idea what is going on in your beautiful human existence. But I do know that this law works, and it works every time. As you give money, you receive money. As you give love, you receive love. Because not only are you thinking about it, check out my other video that I just posted last week about synchronicities and how we can use our mind in order to transform even more of what we want to see in life. But we can amplify this law by paying attention to what it is we want more of in life, what it is we want to give more of in life. Giving not only enriches the lives of others that you are giving to, but it also enriches your own because you become the person who gives of themselves. And that feeling is an amplified and increasing energy that you get to resonate with. And not only do you get to feel that in your vibration, but others will be attracted to that. As you are a person of increase, increase shall come to you with good measure every single time, overflowing. It's like the circulatory system. In our body, there is a giving of oxygen all throughout our body. And as such, there is deoxygenated blood flowing through and coming back to be oxygenated again, and so on and so forth. A blockage in our circulatory system can be fatal. And so, how do we free up this metaphorical blockage that we may be experiencing in our life? A blockage of money, a blockage of love, a blockage of support, a blockage of freedom. We free up this energy by recognizing where we're feeling constricted, where we're feeling hemmed in. And you will know it for your own life because it doesn't feel free. It doesn't feel expansive. It feels like you're working too hard, pushing too much, that your stomach or your body tightens up, and there doesn't feel like there's this relaxed nature. And so, reflecting right now in this moment on your own life, where are you feeling hemmed in? Where are you feeling like you'd love even more flow in your life? Where would you love even more expansion in your life? And I urge you and encourage you and empower you with this moment that promise you that as you give more of that in your life, so shall you receive. And write it down. Writing it down not only allows you to be able to reflect more freely and more expansively on your life in a very methodical way, but again, check out my other video because as you are paying attention to and focusing on that aspect or multiple aspects of your life, it has to grow. I love using the example and metaphor of a plant. If you're not paying attention to watering, fostering, cultivating plants, if you're not giving it your energy, it will die. If you don't use it, you lose it, also comes to mind. So, as you are giving of your energy, so shall it come back to you. And this also brings me to another subject in the realm of giving and receiving. To give of yourself only when you feel like you have enough love to give, only when you feel like you have enough time to give, only when you feel like you're wealthy enough to give, is like kinking the hose. Because what that does is that it puts conditions on what you're able to give, in which case, sporadic giving is sporadic receiving. Regular tithing of your time, money, love, support, whatever it is you want to give, means that you will regularly receive it back. You want to become the person in your mind, in your energy, in your subsequent actions that knows they already have. And I know that you already have something in your life. You already have the time. It's where you choose to put it and utilize it. You already have the money. It's where you're choosing to put it, to utilize it, to spend it. And so take a percentage of your time to be a regular volunteer. Take a percentage of your money to give it every week, every other week, every month. Take a percentage of how much love you would love to focus on and give in your day, and give of that. To be conscious and regular with your giving is to be conscious and regular with your receiving. And on this note of receiving, you want to be a gracious receiver. Because someone who gives of their money but then is not willing to receive, that is also a block. You want to be a gracious receiver, knowing that you are part of this cycle. If you are not willing to receive, you block that other person from being able to give generously. And that exchange again creates that block. So as you give, knowing that you will receive, open yourself up to receiving. Now, I'd also love to briefly touch on the idea of this law of receiving being activated by the law of giving, but the kind of energy you would love to put into it. Up until now, when I was first learning about this law, the idea came from lack. It's like, oh, well, if I give more of my money, I'll receive more money, and I desire more money. And so as I was giving, I noticed the difference in how I give now. When I used to give, it was out of lack because I said, I am giving so I can get. But that's because I felt like I had enough to give and I tithed 10%. I utilized this law perfectly, what I thought was perfectly. But I realized that energy was only to receive. I was only giving generously of my money because I wanted to receive. And that energy is again like kinking the hose. And it's upon reflection in the ways in which I utilize this law that I now have a better understanding of what it means to give and to give generously, to be even more in touch with the person and the version of me, my highest self, who gives because she has so much to give. She has, and I have so much that I don't even know what to do with it all. So, of course, I want to give because what am I going to do with it all? I want to be able to share in the abundance because not only do I know that I'm part of this oneness that gives generously without expecting anything back, but gives generously because it just feels good to give. Someone who also knows they have so much time on their hand isn't worried about and isn't feeling scarcity when they give. They give because they're like, I have so much time on my hands. I would love to be able to give my time to you. I would love to be able to hold space to help you in whatever way that I can, because it's not taking anything away from me. In fact, I recognize that it is giving something to me just by the very fact that I have this time and I'm willing and generously wanting to give to you. And so, as you're playing with this law, and I encourage you to play with it, be curious with it, have fun with it. Where in your life are you feeling like you'd love even more? Where in your life are you feeling like you're like, you know what? I have been feeling a little constricted. How can I unblock myself, knowing that I am the only one who can do so? I would love to. I would love to know that my money is going out and doing great good. I would love to know that I have even more than enough to be able to give to others, and that as they are receiving it, that whatever it is they choose to do with that money, I know that it is going and is going out and doing fantastic stuff for this world. And so, in the spirit of giving, for those of you who would love to learn even more the laws of transformation, the techniques and the tools that allow you to step into even greater levels of your internal wealth in order to transform your external wealth and richness in love, money, time, freedom. I'm beginning a new dream building beta team. And in this program, we get to sit down together exclusively every single week where I get to help you figure out the ways in which you're feeling like you'd love even more expansion in your life. Where are there places in your life that you're saying, I don't love this. I don't know how exactly I'm going to transform this, but I would love some help. In the description box down below is a link that you guys can click in order to have a one-on-one conversation with me to see if this is the right path for you. It is 50% off my regular coaching price. It is for 3 months where we get to intimately transform every aspect of your life that you want to see the even greater still. And so if that sounds like something that you would love to step into, jump on this opportunity because it'll be available until the end of November. Now, until the next time that we get to see and chit chat with each other, I trust, hope, and expect that you all have an even more prosperous day. Have so much fun with this particular law of receiving, and I will talk to you guys and look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you all for joining me today because it has been my absolute pleasure to be here with you. Make sure to give this podcast a 5-star review and share it with all your loved ones because it helps in creating even more awesome content. If you're interested in learning how to effortlessly create even more health, vitality, and time and money freedom,
sign up for my free monthly vision workshop live over Zoom. Until then, I hope you all have a powerful day, and I look forward to chatting with you all real soon.